How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Well, how are y'all? I hope you're having a great day. It's Eric Erickson here across America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Yes, we will take your phone calls today, but I think we all know where we need to begin the show today.
And now, Deep Thoughts by Kamala Harris. That was Deep Thoughts by Kamala Harris.
The most deep thought that woman ever had. Kamala Harris will not be the president of the United States. She has been, well, just rejected by Americans who have instead embraced Donald Trump. You know, the most remarkable thing is that the Democrats have repeatedly called Donald Trump a threat to democracy. Donald Trump is actually a woman beater. He has beaten 2 women for president of the United States, and they've lost to him. And it's a tough day for the Democrats out there. And y'all, I've been saying for a couple of months that Trump was going to win. For the last month, even in the last week, I warned y'all that, yes, you know, it was actually people from the Trump campaign themselves who were telling me that they were seeing this last-minute shift away from Trump after Madison Square Garden last week. But as I told you, they and I didn't think it was going to be enough. It wasn't. It wasn't. What a brutal beatdown. Democrats, this is what rejection feels like. By the way, let me cover the breaking news right now. The Republicans do look like they're set now to pick up the House of Representatives. They will gain the Senate. And as the votes are coming in Nevada, it's looking more and more likely that Sam Brown could actually win. I didn't think he was going to. He was one of the guys I really wanted to win, and now it looks like he may win. Republicans have captured the Senate so far. They've won Montana. They have won West Virginia. They've won Ohio. Those are 3 Democratic pickups, so they have a 52-seat majority. They are on the verge of winning Wisconsin. They're on the verge of winning Pennsylvania. They're on the verge of winning Nevada. If they're at 52 right now and they pick up those 3, they'll be at 55. Remarkably, Carrie Lake, she's done better than I expected, but she's not going to pull it off. But in Nevada, Sam Brown is now ahead. Eric Hovde is barely behind. In Michigan, Jim Turner is behind by 0.1%. And in Pennsylvania, Dave McCormick is ahead by about 0.5%. McCormick looks most likely. He and Sam Brown are the 2 I was really rooting for. McCormick is ahead right now, barely. There are enough votes outstanding that could change it, but it looks like the Republicans could have a 53-seat Senate majority. It looks like their House majority will not actually change. They'll have about 221 seats. They need 218 to govern, so it'll still be a very close majority. President Trump last night coming out for Mike Johnson as Speaker of the House. So what happened here? It was a blowout of epic proportions. In fact, I got to play you this clip. This is this is Jake Tapper and John King at the CNN wall last night with John King running it. Just listen to this.
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
Not one county in the United States of America. Where now, actually, as the evening went on and adjusted, that's not quite true. But overwhelmingly, yes, Kamala Harris underperformed Joe Biden everywhere. This, of course, every conservative in America switched to MSNBC late last night to watch their meltdown begin. I will tell you, I got to bed at 5 a.m. this morning. I hung out with some friends of mine until about 2:30. Got back to my hotel, was doing some work, and a buddy of mine on the West Coast called and said, hey, can you be on the radio with me? So I said yes. So I did radio from Connecticut to Florida to Georgia to Missouri to Nevada to Arizona to California and back again through the night. It was a very long night. I also did News Nation TV. It was a very long night. And then I couldn't wait for Morning Joe to begin. They were all dressed in black like a funeral.
Mayor, I mean, it is, again, the scope and scale of this victory is sweeping. And we can focus, by the way, we can focus on Donald Trump if we would like. But this goes so far beyond Donald Trump. Make no mistake, his victory, again, historic. But you look at Republicans across the nation. You look at how handily they're winning states. As Willie said, you look at Illinois, a 4-point margin. Illinois, a 5-point margin in New Jersey. This is a Democratic Party that has been just wiped out this morning.
Yeah. Listen, and they all look like they're there for a funeral, other than Joe.
Well, I mean, so much to go through, so many questions. I came onto the set and Willie said, hey, by the way, because we were talking about the historic nature of this sweep.
Yeah.
And Willie said, do you know, he only lost Illinois by 4 points.
4 points in
New Jersey by 5. I mean, you talk about we had talked about a red wave 2 years ago that never materialized. This is I've got to say, this is the biggest red wave I've seen since Ronald Reagan's 49-state victory in 1984.
Okay. I need a hard truth. And here's how I'm going to do the show today. At the bottom of the hour, I want to talk to Republicans. At the top of the next hour, Democrats. Third hour, I'll talk to the media. Let's have conversations. But I need to start here. And if you got my morning email, you know what I'm going to say. And I know this is going to get me hate mail, but I want to start with this. If you subscribe to my email, if you text data to 33777, you subscribe to my email, you are the first people in America. And I'm not making this up. This is not an exaggeration. I literally beat everybody. On TV, in newspapers, and newsletters across America, I was the first person. And I'm bragging about it because I get beat up all the time for how can you have friends on the Democratic side? How can I trust you're really conservative? Because I have good relationships with people and I learn things. And so if you subscribe to my email, you can text data to 33777 to do so. You are the very first people in America to know that the Kamala Harris team had begun calling Democrats last night before 11 p.m. to tell them there was no path to victory. Kamala Harris was going to lose. You didn't have to stay up all night. You didn't have to stay up until 2 o'clock in the morning to see it roll over to 270. At 11 o'clock last night, before 11 o'clock last night, I sent out breaking news. Kamala Harris's senior leadership has begun calling Democrats to tell them there is no path to 270 for Kamala Harris. She will lose. Y'all were the very first people. I'm not making that up. I beat Fox, CNN, NBC, ABC, CBS, the New York Times, the Washington Post, USA Today, everybody. Because I maintain friendships with people. It's the same reason I could tell you from my Republican friends with the Trump campaign that, yeah, the Madison Square Garden stuff did begin a shift of momentum back towards Kamala Harris. It wasn't enough. They didn't think it was going to be enough. I didn't think it was going to be enough. But I do talk to members of these campaigns. They do tell me things that I get to relate to you. And I will tell the Democrats what senior Democrats, not Republicans, what senior Democrats are willing to tell me. There are too many neurotic white women and gay men in leadership of the Democratic Party to be able to relate to the middle class, to Hispanics, to black voters. Look at the priapism. The idea of Pete Buttigieg teaming with Kamala Harris gave certain white progressives. They loved the idea. And I said that would brutalize you. What did they do? They didn't go with Buttigieg because I told you all along, because Democrats have told me that Kamala Harris and Pete Buttigieg despise each other. She went with the next best thing, Tim Walz, and got the exact same results she would have gotten with Pete Buttigieg. She underperformed Joe Biden in Minnesota with the governor of Minnesota as her running mate. The Democrats have lost the ability to relate to anyone other than neurotic white women with mental health issues and rich gay men from the coast. They are the people who appear on television as the analysts and as the anchors and behind the scenes as the editors. They are the people who set the agenda of the Democratic Party, and the rich gay men and the neurotic mentally ill white women got in a room and conjured up the Kamala Harris campaign. And those are the sorts of people who say, we don't need to do the Al Smith dinner in New York. We can be the first presidential candidate since Walter Mondale to not do it. And guess what? You got Walter Mondale-like shellacking. You lost the Catholic vote, something Joe Biden was able to win. It was tone deaf. Your approach to get men was to make it about pornography and sex and free legal marijuana. That went down in the polls in Florida last night. Abortion lost in Florida last night, but a majority of Floridians voted for that amendment. The Democrats completely lost touch with people. Donald Trump is going back to the White House, not since Grover Cleveland has a president lost and then won again. And he's going back to the White House with the largest multiracial coalition a Republican president has ever seen. In Georgia, Donald Trump underperformed with white suburbia and performed so well with Hispanic voters, they won him the election in Georgia, along with single black men. Donald Trump won Starr County, Texas. Starr County, Texas is the most Hispanic county in America. 97% of the county is Hispanic. Donald Trump was blown out of the water by Joe Biden in 2020 in Starr County, Texas. He won it by 16 points this time. Ted Cruz saw a 20+% swing for Hispanic voters. One of the things the intersectional identity politics Democrats don't understand is that black and Hispanic voters have issues with each other. Hispanic voters in Texas, they weren't going to support calling all red. Hispanic voters in South Texas believe that they are treated worse by black voters than by white voters. Go talk to them. I know friends from South Texas. There is a huge race issue among Democrats on the black and Hispanic spectrums that don't like each other, but the Democrats who play intersectional politics, they don't get it. They don't understand. The Democrats are so intersectional in their political outcomes. They rejected the Jewish governor of Pennsylvania so they wouldn't alienate the Arab voters of Michigan, and they lost Pennsylvania and they lost Michigan. The woke intersectional politics of the progressive left have destroyed the Democratic Party today. It's amazing to watch. It is hilarious to watch. They got what they deserved. Greetings, conversationalists. Let me pick one small scab with you because it needs to be picked, I guess, because I'm already getting emails from friends of mine saying, oh, my God, look at the turnout. Doesn't it mean actually 2020 was stolen? No. Number one, the counting is going to be going on for another week or two, so you're going to see all the 2024 numbers rise. And two, in 2020, massive numbers of voters due to COVID were given mail-in ballots. So you actually did have higher participation because people were sent ballots to their home in many states automatically. And if you want to say that was cheating, that's fine, but that was one of the recommended COVID protocols by the Trump administration in 2020 that some states embraced, was people in states got mail-in ballots. So, yeah, you had massive more participation in 2020 because voters, without even asking in many states, were able to get ballots at home, and Trump judges approved it. So I cannot believe that what people want to do after taking this historic win last night is actually relitigate 2020, but people just, they got to have their pet conspiracy theories confirmed as opposed to just recognizing last night was a great and historic night. It really was an impressive night. And the Democrats just don't quite fathom, I think, what happened. They're already out today blaming misogyny. They're blaming sexism. They're trying to blame. They're not trying to understand. They're trying to say it's sexism. You know what? Kamala Harris didn't run as a historic male candidate or a female candidate. She didn't. And there's a talking point that some people are now bringing up. This is Sonny Huston on The View this morning, where they all dressed in black. Well, hang on a second. I messed myself up here. Let's see. I got to do that. And now you can hear. I know none of you want to, but just listen.
I mean, aside from buck naked dancing on the top of the table, I don't know what else she could have done.
I don't think she could have done more. I think she left it all out on the field. I think she raised $1 billion in 3 months. I think that she ran a flawless campaign, and I maintain that. I think
a flawless campaign. She didn't go to the Al Smith dinner. She hung out with Liz Cheney instead of going to HBCUs. She decided to run on threat to democracy instead of saying that she would distance herself from Joe Biden and change policies. No, she did not run a flawless campaign. And if you thought that was a flawless campaign, you're just going to keep losing in the future. By the way, all these women on The View, like the people on MSNBC, they dressed up in black like they were mourning. There has never been a time in my life where my team lost in politics and I felt the need to dress like I was going to a funeral. You people have turned politics into a religion, and your idols were smashed last night by God Almighty himself. Now, you want to just smash the odors in your house and get rid of them, so how about that transition? Let's talk about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. They've got a new version of it out now. You can buy 3 of them, and you save $200 by going to EdenPureDeals.com and put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3 at EdenPureDeals.com. Now, what's the new one? It's actually smaller than the old one, and the old one was small enough. This one's even smaller. And it generates not just ozone to wipe out odors, but plasma to wipe out viruses and bacteria. It literally latches onto them and kills them, annihilates them. It also gets rid of pet dander and pollen and dust. You can get 3 of them, save $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. The discount code is ERIC3. Get one for upstairs, your basement, your travel bag, wherever you need them. And they wipe out smoke odors, litter box odors, pet odors, dirty diaper odors, cooking odors, musty odors, you name it. Go to EdenPureDeals.com, put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3, and wipe out bad odors everywhere. My fellow Americans, I am delighted to have you with me today. I want to spend some time with your phone calls in this segment, 877-973-7425, but you got to be patient with me because I want to have a heart-to-heart with the GOP. And what I decided to do for show prep today is I want to talk to the GOP. The next hour to Democrats, and then the third hour to the press. So let me begin with this. Republicans, the hard part is here now. You have to govern. Governing is way harder than running for office. Running for office is a slog, but governing's harder. I think if I were a reporter, I would rush today to get on record all of the Democrats in the United States Senate and ask them if they want to still get rid of the filibuster, and are they going to go on and try to do that now? Republicans are going to have to contend with the filibuster, and by the way, they too should preserve it, and it's going to frustrate them. One of the things that I say regularly is precedents matter, and you got to remember Chuck Schumer and the Democrats set a precedent that you can do 2 reconciliation packages now in a year and not just one. You have to time it right, but you can do up to 2 in a year. So Republicans, get your 2 reconciliation packages ready, preserve the Trump tax cuts, get rid of Jennifer Granholm's regulations in the Energy Department, get rid of their mandates on electric vehicles, spur economic growth through those things, and move forward. Undo the Inflation Reduction Act. What we're going to see is some Republicans in the United States Congress like the graft, greed, and corruption of the Inflation Reduction Act, which was actually the Green New Deal. They're going to want the government subsidies. You need to kill those things. Government subsidies breed inefficiency, and we've got to stimulate the economy. Because here's why, Republicans. You have 2 years now until your midterms. And you've misinterpreted the results already into they love Donald Trump as opposed to they hate the other side. When anyone gets elected, they don't get elected in a vacuum. They get elected in contrast to the other side. The Democrats want power. The Democrats are going to fix their problems. And Donald Trump is Donald Trump. So you need to govern efficiently and effectively. And to do that, you got to get rid of the greed, the graft, and corruption in Washington that came with the Green New Deal. You got to get rid of it. And I would tell you this as well. Every Republican, hear me here, please. Many of you were driven to existential frenzy that Kamala Harris might win, and you thought if she did, it would be the end of America. If you fear the other side gaining that power, get rid of the power, throw the ring in the volcano, melt it. Get rid of the power of the presidency. If you get rid of it, they can't use that power against you when they get the power back. So gut Washington, D.C. You're going to have the House, the Senate, and the presidency. Get rid of the president's power. More particularly, you want to get rid of the power of the American bureaucracy. You want to gut the Environmental Protection Agency. You want to gut the regulators at the Department of Labor. You want to gut the Department of Energy regulations. You want to gut the Department of Health and Human Service regulations. And you want to gut the Department of Education. You want to gut them like you are a mob boss claiming your victory and getting rid of all the other mafiosos out there. Wipe them out. Get into Washington, D.C. and wipe them out. Metaphorically speaking, we're not putting, just so the hysterical girls at MSNBC don't get upset with me, we're talking metaphors here. If you want to kill the king, and you better kill the king. You got to wipe out the power of the bureaucracy in Washington, D.C. over the next 2 years and free up the American people. There are lots of studies that have shown that for every regulation, you take more money out of people's pocketbooks. You deregulate, you spur economic growth. You spur economic growth, more people are going to go back to work. More people go back to work, you're going to be able to have less illegal immigrants doing work in America. You can deport them because more Americans are going to be spurred to go back into the workforce. We have a lot of Americans sitting on the sidelines, and many, many, many Americans have traded the acquisition of private wealth for the government dole. You're going to need to transition people back into the workforce, Republicans, and you do that by cutting government. Every percentage of growth of GDP from government is a negative growth for the private sector. You've got to grow the private sector by cutting government. The only reason the jobs report had a net jobs gain of 12,000 last week was because of the growth of government jobs. The government is growing more than the private sector, and when the government begins growing more than the private sector, you ultimately kill the private sector. So kill the government instead, Republicans. You've got to govern. This was the easy part. This actually was the easy part. And it seems so hard. Governing is so much harder. You got to govern competently. You've got to govern efficiently. And by the way, I need to say something some of you aren't going to like. There are a lot of good ideas in Project 2025. I think the Republicans would be wise to embrace much of Project 2025. I think some of the economic ideas are bad, protectionist, and actually hurt the economy. Tariffs are a terrible idea. But there's some good stuff in Project 2025. You probably need to consider some of it. Republicans, it's time to get to work now. You want to preserve this coalition, this multiracial coalition. You want to convert these new Trump Democrats into permanent Republicans. You want to turn Latino voters into the base of the Republican Party. And you know how you do that? You crack down on illegal immigration. It's remarkable to me the Democrats never even saw this coming. The Democrats really believed if they promoted illegal immigration in this country, Hispanic voters would side with them. Do they not know any Hispanic voters other than the rich, mentally ill Hispanic women and gay men of the Democratic Party? Do they not know working class Hispanic voters? They're the people who hate illegal immigration the most. They despise illegal immigration because they came here and they busted their butts and they're making a living and Joe Biden's economy hurt them. They're furious. Hispanic voters want a paycheck for an honest day's labor, and they don't like the fact that someone can walk across this border illegally and get the same job for less money under the table. It makes them furious, and they've become Trump supporters. Republicans, if you secure the border and deport the illegal immigrants, you're going to make Hispanic voters a permanent Republican class of voter. Suddenly, the Democrats are going to want to secure the border with the Hispanic strength for Donald Trump. Democrats are probably going to want to compromise now on the border. They should. Republicans, it's time to lead. It's time to step up. It's time to govern. It's time to move forward. You got to have a comprehensive agenda. And by the way, you're going to have to work together in the House with a slim majority. Now, let me go to the phones here. I want to start with, Brad in Pinehurst, North Carolina. One of my favorite places. Brad, welcome.
Hey, Eric. Good afternoon. How are you doing?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Hey, listen, you kind of touched on a point there. This election was really amazing to me, just to see how Trump just kind of swept the entire country and his numbers went up. But my question or want your opinion on is, so, midterm elections 2 years ago, he endorsed all these candidates that ended up falling flat on their face. Specifically here in North Carolina, he had endorsed Mark Robinson, who had a slew of issues. The Republican base here rushed to put him through the primary up against Josh Stein, which he was dead on arrival to begin with. So, we ended up losing the Attorney General, the Lieutenant Governor, Lori Buckhart, who's was running for House District 1 here in North Carolina, because they all tied them to Mark Robinson, who Trump endorsed. Mm-hmm. Does Trump need to change his thought pattern on who he's endorsing so we don't run into this situation again 2 years from now? I guess kind of tying into the governance thing, he's got to change his kind of approach, I guess.
Brad, look, I'm glad you bring this up because Mark Robinson dragged down Republicans in North Carolina. Now, the good news is you all are going to keep your legislative supermajority. But yeah,
no, actually we're not.
Oh, you're not? I read last night that it looked like it. So that's changed now?
Yeah, we lost the supermajority by 1 seat.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, look, Robinson was a terrible candidate. And okay, I let me feel a little bit of guilt here, Brad. I have always thought Robinson was a terrible candidate, and I said nothing.
I did too. I tried to jump through the roof on it.
Yeah, the reason I didn't say anything is because I already felt like I was picking fights with Trump supporters over whether 2020 was stolen or not. And I didn't want to rub salt in the wounds by saying Mark Robinson's a garbage candidate because so many of my friends loved him every time he spoke. He struck the right notes on all these cultural issues, and I was just like, it's not worth it for me to pick this fight too. But he was a disastrous candidate, and a lot of people on the Republican side had a lot of dirt on him, and they never showed it. There should be accountability in North Carolina for the Republicans there for what the Republicans in North Carolina did in rallying around, including Michael Whatley, now the chairman of the RNC, who was one of the people who pushed Robinson forward, was a disastrous candidate. There were better picks in the field than Robinson, and Robinson clearly had a down ballot effect. Donald Trump was not enough to pull these other Republicans. So yeah, and this gets me, Brad, to your point as well. Look at Kari Lake. You have all these Republicans on the verge of going to the Senate, but not Carrie Lake. She's a terrible candidate in Arizona, but Trump liked her because she sang all the right notes. Trump has really got to get out of the idea that just because people whisper sweet nothings in his ear, they're good candidates to back. He's got to vet candidates better. All right, Corey, you're going to be up next. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Doing good, Eric. Love the show.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, do you think after last night any of the prominent Democrats start to course correct and come back towards the center of the aisle? For instance, do you think maybe they use last night's beating as a way to finally admit that sometimes men competing against women can be unfair?
Yeah, look, they're going to have to. Here's the problem. When you look at the major donors of the Democratic Party, from Alex Soros to you name it, they're so progressive on these issues, they're going to have a hard time walking away from this particular issue. I will tell you, it's God's honest truth, cross my heart, hope to die. It is Democratic strategists in America who told me that the Trump ad about Kamala Harris paying for transitions that ended with she's for they, them, Donald Trump's for you, was the ad that they measured that was devastating for Black and Hispanic support for Kamala Harris. That ad killed Kamala Harris's momentum, and that ad shifted the entire race to Donald Trump. And what did Democrats do? They went on TV and screamed that it was transphobia and it was bigotry and it wasn't effective and it was Donald Trump playing to his base. No. Donald Trump picked up support in the Black and Hispanic community because of that cultural issue. And it is absolutely tone deaf for the Democrats to double down and say, this is our issue. It's not your issue. It's the one costing you everything. Now, I want to save you some money instead of costing you money, and that is Old Glory Bank. If you go to oldglorybank.com today, you can get an account with Old Glory Bank. They are by conservatives for conservatives. Listen, we know what's going to happen now. The left is going to become even more unhinged, and they're going to try to use their corporate influence to punish Americans who didn't support Democrats. Old Glory Bank is a bank that was started by conservatives because of these debanking trends on the left, and you're going to be protected if you use Old Glory Bank. At Old Glory Bank, unlike some major banks in this country, you can use your debit card to buy a gun. They don't care. They support your Second Amendment right. You can get a no-fee checking account, a no-fee savings account. You can get a mortgage. You can get a loan. Listen, if you're a business and you want to work with a great bank, Old Glory Bank is the bank for you. They really are. I sent a business to them, and that business needed a loan. They're an online bank, and Old Glory Bank flew someone to the business to spend time with the business, looking at the books of the business, getting to know the business, looking for himself at the viability of the business to be able to do business with them. They're a great hands-on bank. They're really good people. OldGloryBank.com. You can get an online account with them in less than 8 minutes at OldGloryBank.com. Member FDIC, equal housing lender. Terms and conditions apply. It really is my bank. This hour of the program is brought to you by First Liberty Building and Loan. If you're buying a building, you're building a building, you're buying a franchise, buying out a business partner, you name it. You can do business with First Liberty Building and Loan. They've been making their own business decisions since the 90s. They'd love to work with you. Go to firstlibertyga.com, firstlibertyga.com. Tell them I sent you. They're great people. All right, Gary, I want to go to you next. Welcome to the show. How are you?
Good, sir. How are you today?
Great.
We're here wishing you a great American Wednesday afternoon. I spent an hour enjoying MSNBC's meltdown this morning and then moved on to more important things. I had a question. A gentleman that I used to work with about a year ago, we had a conversation concerning black support for Donald Trump. And he basically said there ain't no way black people in Georgia, I was born and raised in Macon, I live in Monticello. He said no way black people are going to support Donald Trump. I'm curious if you have some information for Georgia and for the national level of the percentage of black support for Mr. Trump, President Trump. Sorry.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I do. That would be President-elect now, the official title for another few weeks.
That is correct. President and President-elect, yes.
So, yeah, Donald Trump won 25% of black men in Georgia. Everywhere in the nation, this is what everybody needs to understand. Kamala Harris won a majority of the black vote in this country everywhere, black men and black women. But Donald Trump surpassed 25% in most places of black men.
Right.
And Donald Trump actually got overall about 15% of the black vote and got more than 10% of black women. And this is something the Democrats have got to understand is that, look, y'all, I know you say, I've got a lot of black friends. I live in Macon, Georgia, for God's sakes. My neighbor is black. I got plenty of friends. I served on a city council with a number of black Democrats. And the thing that they all say is that Kamala Harris did not have a black experience. They didn't relate to her as black. And I get lit up on fire as a racist for saying what black people say, that she was born in California. She grew up in Canada. She lived in Berkeley. Her father's from Jamaica. Her mother's from India. Her father's family owned slaves. She never went through what black women in the South had to go through. She never went through what black women in Detroit had to go through. She never had that black experience, and she never talked about it on the campaign trail, which was the big tell. Kamala Harris never talked on the campaign trail about all the racial experiences she experienced as a child of Berkeley and of Canada. That's just the truth. Don't be mad at me for telling you the truth. And black voters shifted significantly. Now, here's the other thing you got to understand. It's not just that Donald Trump picked up more black support. A lot of black voters stayed home. And that itself was a rejection of Kamala Harris. There are a lot of black voters in the United States for a lot of historic reasons who will never vote for a Republican. But that doesn't mean they're going to give the Democrats their votes. Doesn't mean they're going to give the Democrats their votes. And they didn't last night. They rejected Kamala Harris significantly enough that Donald Trump is going to win the popular vote. The first time the Republicans have won the popular vote in the presidency since George W. Bush's reelection in 2004. And oh, by the way, Democrats, George W. Bush finally spoke up. The too long didn't read version of it, he gave you the middle finger. He released a memo this morning congratulating Donald Trump on his reelection. Yeah, that's where we are. You Democrats tried to bully George W. Bush into denouncing Donald Trump. He didn't. And today he's congratulating Joe Biden on his service as president, thanking him and congratulating Donald Trump on his reelection to the presidency. When we come back, Democrats, please listen.